Hey everybody, I'm Nico.
And I'm TK.
And this is X's for Comics. And so we've been talking a lot, getting all excited. And then Deadpool Batman was great. And we loved talking about the Marvel vs. DC and all of the amazing Amalgam stuff that happened. Big fans. And so we said with KO coming up, DC KO, we could do our own version of that and have a little bit of fun. So we took like 8 characters each and then secretly had KEVO, hey producer KEVO, mash them up, and we're here to talk about them.
Yeah.
So TK, what was your favorite part about picking 8 combatants from each universe?
Knowing that we would think of a lot of the same ones, and so having to think around that. And then I saw your DC list, and your DC list was basically every time I thought of a character, it's the one that's on your DC list. And I said, no, I can't pick that one. Nico will think of that one. So I have to pick an alternate person. The one that I picked that I was like, Nico's going to pick this, but I want to pick it anyway, was Simpson.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really tried to avoid, and like, I tried to avoid your people too.
Yeah, I was like, if I pick Dreamer, I know he's not going to pick Dreamer specifically because I'm going to pick Dreamer. But like, yeah, we both had a lot of the same ideas, which I thought was funny. I figured we wouldn't have as much overlap for Marvel. But yeah, I thought that was fun.
I've been actually worried about what did happen, which is like we each picked people that are like analogous. Like, for example, one of us would have picked Laura and one of us would have picked Wild Thing. Something like that. And a few of those did happen, but not too many.
Yes.
All right, let's jump in. You guys can catch the link in the chat. Vote along with us. Have a good time. Remember, until we are hired by editorial, this does not change anything. This just gets to go on the Nicopedia page. It just gets added to the TK archive. It is just here for your KEVO organization, right? So, no further ado. I can't wait to get voting. So, our first matchup is what you got?
Of note, this is not a voting game, baby. We got to convince each other. We have to be of one mind, and KEVO has to tie break. We don't. We could each make our own, but then we would only be looking at one.
Don't hate that.
And that's not how we usually play bracket fights. We need to come to a consensus.
Oh my god, I completely forgot. Yeah, I'm like ready to click along. Oh
yeah, no, we gotta agree on these. And this is actually, to me, I felt like might be one of the tougher ones.
Yeah, or we got Nico Minoru of the Runaways versus Carol Star Sapphire Ferris. This is a good pink on purple kind of fight. This is a good sexy time. I think it comes down to who's feeling more clever that day, because they both kind of have like ancient power that's not gonna run out. So
I feel like Nico is currently more willing to fight dirty. Carol still keeps showing up to all the fights being like, I can't believe I'm powerful. And I feel like Nico is willing to just punch her in the boob with the staff of one and be like, because this is how you win a fight.
With a boob punch.
With a boob punch with the staff of one specifically.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, I feel like I could give this one to Nico pretty comfortably.
All right.
Right, KEVO, anytime you feel like you got to pop in and be like one way or another, you got to let us know. Hey, corner box man.
Part of the problem with this one is I don't know Star Sapphire as well, other than you telling me that that's my Lantern Corps.
That's kind of true, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Not sure how to feel about that. I know Nico better. That's part of the problem. But I feel like, I'm going to also go with Nico, especially with how much they've been ramping her up lately.
Yeah, I'm feeling it. I'm vibing it. Bring me to our next match.
Next up, Elektra versus Mr. Terrific.
So this one is right fucked because like it's tough to know which way to go here.
Mhm.
I feel like Mr. Terrific has the technology, but I do think that it's tough here because like I do feel like Elektra can move between the moments and like she can I don't know. This is tough.
So we are talking about two heroes, two good guys. And we're talking we specifically have Daredevil Elektra, who doesn't fight as dirty, and also I think has an overconfidence that works a lot of the time against the people that she encounters a lot. But I think Mr. Terrific is a really great example of somebody who she would be like, just hadn't thought of everything that he's bringing to the table. She's not particularly impressed by a Punisher, a guy who's buying his technology. The dude who is fully making it all and vibing with it 100%, I think is up over her head a little bit. I would give this one to Mr. Terrific.
I hear you. I feel like this isn't a hill I want to die on because she'll just come back from the dead.
That's the other thing.
She might not win the fight, but she's not.
She could win the war of attrition.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. I'm going to give this one to Mr. Terrific, but just cuz.
Just cuz.
So
I agree.
you're
just-
vibing the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so this next one is kind of tough. We have Akihiro versus the Question. Renee Montoya as the Question. I feel like it's kind of got to go to Akihiro. She's got damage and baggage, and he's got Unholy Fire.
They star in two very different books. I feel like if it was a race to solve a case or a mystery, obviously Renee Montoya is going to win. If it is an all-out fight, I do think it is Akihiro. I think the other thing that people don't really consider with Akihiro, especially because of his family and everything, he's 80 years old or something. He's like 70 years old. He looks young and hot, but he's an old dude. Like, he's had a lot of time being a warrior. And so I don't know. I feel pretty comfortable giving him this one.
Yeah, I do too. I feel like it's a pretty reasonable win.
Yeah.
Kevo, you know Renee Montoya from the Batman animated series, and now she's the Question. But I don't think it's crazy to want to give it to the hot bisexual guy.
Do I?
She's the lady cop on Batman the Animated Series. She's one of the lady cops.
Oh, ooh, I do love that. But no, you guys are probably right.
Yeah, it goes to the hot bisexual.
Isn't she a hot? Well, she's a lesbian, isn't she? She's just a straight up lesbian.
Yeah, and like that's super cool, but like we don't have enough gay boys out there right now. Let's just poke them for being cute in comics.
She's also Rosie Perez, right?
Mookie. I don't know. Probably.
In Birds of Prey.
Possibly. I don't know.
I gotta look this up. Am I remembering this wrong?
Well,
Yeah,
while-
Rosie Perez. Yeah. Okay, good.
I feel like the
That's
gods
crazy.
did this one just to me.
Yes, I'm gonna let you tell us who wins this one.
Doop versus John Constantine. I feel like John Constantine would constantly be like, "Well, mate, I summoned up a demon inside of you, and you've never known hell like this, mate. No, you ain't." And then Doop would just turn himself inside out, and Constantine would be like, "Fuck, this is so much worse than I could have ever imagined." Okay. I feel like Very few people could even come close to giving Doop a run for his money. I could be convinced either way. I'm leaning Doop, the extra dimensional space inside of him, is kind of a vote getter, but John Constantine is pretty significant.
I do feel like if anybody was going to give Doop a run for his money in terms of like Doop exists and works with the joy and the silliness of the human or person imagination. John Constantine can only imagine horrible things. And so he really, like you said, he absolutely could put a horrifying demon in Doop, and then Doop would just turn himself inside out. But that's not something that Doop wants to do all the time. John Constantine would bum him out. He would subject him to enough horrors to be exhausting. I don't think he would win necessarily. I'm not prepared to argue that. Although I do feel like this is one of those ones where, there's 999,999 times that Doop would win, but there's just that one time where John had thought of the right demon, the right angel to make a bargain with.
I'm going to say 3 out of 10, actually.
Sure.
I could give it to John 3 out of 10.
Sure. Yeah. But I'm willing to put it on the bracket for Doop.
Yeah, me too. KEVO, you know a bit about both of these guys. You know that they are my, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit is the thing that put me against this. Where are you going?
It's what made it especially funny that this really was randomized. I numbered all the Marvel people, and then I randomized those numbers and set those to the DC people. So it just turned out this way, and I thought there are a few great ones, but this one especially. And I think as much as I'd love to give it to John, not to reference a pop culture thing that shall not be named, but Doop is kind of like the Peeves of the Marvel Universe, where I kind of want to see him, for how influential and how significant he is, really start to get his due. So, John, you've had your chance.
I love that. This next one's just a bummer because, Dorek is going to say to Jason, because this one is Hulkling versus Red Hood. Just to recap so far, it's been Nico versus Star Sapphire, and it went to Nico. It's been Elektra as Daredevil versus Mr. Terrific. It went to Mr. Terrific. It was Akihiro versus Renee Montoya as The Question, and it went to Akihiro as Helverine. We just had Doop versus John Constantine, and it went to Doop. For this next one, Hulkling versus Red Hood. Hulkling would ultimately be like, dude, I just wish you would die. I just wish you would stay down. Stay down so I don't have to keep hurting you. If you just let me win, this is over. But Jason would just keep crawling. And he'd have a vial of Lazarus Pit in his belt, just enough. And it's got to go to Hulkling. There's no world where it doesn't. But man, Hulkling would not feel good about killing this sexy, sexy man.
I sort of feel like Jason Todd would decapitate Hulkling really quickly.
Interesting that you believe that Jason Todd would have access to something Hulkling decapitating. Genuinely.
Is Hulkling's neck especially strong against a katana?
Is a Skrull.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it gets really
I feel
complicated. He's like Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, he's just such a weak-willed child brat boy with his
God,
stupid
you're turning
husband.
me on.
Oh, you just love him so much. Okay, I'll give it to him.
Kirby, what are you thinking?
I won't lie that I have a soft spot for Hulkling and Wiccan, but really it truly is the shapeshifter of it all. That is the reason that I would have to say I just don't think what Jason Todd has is enough.
And I don't think it is either. But can I tell you,
this next one is so unfair.
this next one does horrible things to me sexually, and I'm
Yeah,
so
as it
in
should.
for it. This one is like the straight, or at least straight leaning versions of me in time and space are like, yeah.
Do you remember they never ever picked up on this again? It annoys the shit out of me. I really liked the idea of the story at the time, but there's an issue, maybe I'm uncanny.
I just want to say Harley Quinn versus Emma Frost for listeners.
Oh yeah, sorry. Somewhere in the last decade, Psylocke versus Mystique, and Psylocke at the end of it is like, I just fixed you. Like, your brain was completely fucked up, and I just fixed it. And like, I'm not gonna fight you anymore. I just made it so that your brain is unbroken, and I'm walking away from this fight. Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
Yeah. I feel like that's what would, like, Emma is technically winning the fight, but I feel like what she would actually do is fix Harley mentally, and the effort that she would expend to do that, Harley is technically the winner because she comes out of the fight a better person, and Emma had to actually put in effort. Harley just got fixed by the Dommy Mommy that Poison Ivy also is, but has no mental powers.
You know, and you're making the best case for why I feel that if they combined the two universes, the Batverse and the X-Men would go together really beautifully. Yeah. Superman would slot right into the Avengers verse with their side characters. Yeah. I think Emma Frost would want to suspend battle to heal Harley so she could fight her equally. Yeah. And then she would just use Mutant Nen and crush him like this is Hunter x Hunter.
So we give this one to Emma, right?
Yeah, Kevo, how you feeling? You giving it to the diamond or the
diamond?
Yeah, about to say this is.
You know, I really agree, and I think I'm even agreeing on a similar premise to how I agreed on Doop. I feel like Emma Frost hasn't really gotten to really shine in culture. Harley has really gotten a lot from this world. And so, yeah, I'm going to also give it to Emma.
Well, that was the gayest, straightest chance we ever had on this show to court both sides of things. Emma versus Harley, unbelievable matchup. But this next one is like, if we want to appeal to both like purists and modernists when it comes to verses, damn, this next one is crazy good. Magneto versus Poison Ivy. The fuck? I mean, first of all, in that photo, it looks like Magneto versus Chapel Roan. So start there. But secondly, I find this one tough. It comes down to who's willing to do what. They're both willing to end the world. Okay. Poison Ivy versus Magneto. I believe it does come down to, like, she'd be like, I've attacked the fungus in your stomach and I'm killing you from the inside. And he'd be like, ah, yes, the inside of me filled with ferrous blood. And like turn it back on her immediately. He'd change the polarity of her brain and reverse the neutron flow. I think this is another one where it's 3 out of 10. It goes to Poison Ivy, but I think that ruthlessness edge goes to Magneto here.
I kind of disagree, especially present day Magneto. For if it's present day Magneto, he loses 100%. He's dying. He's in a Magneto Xavier chair, and just looks like he is falling apart at the seams.
Looks like he needs to get Vivica A. Fox's auto insurance for his wheelie roller chair.
But also, Poison Ivy represents one of the forces and elements that Magneto cannot master and will have some trouble fighting. This is only a brute force thing for him. There's a lot of plants also that like there's no iron in their blood. Like, you know, he's got nothing. And she has a ton of options. I don't think she would necessarily go easy on him. And I just think she has a bigger arsenal of things that the only thing he could do to fight back is, you know, form metal discs and chop plants. But eventually he's going to get overwhelmed by just the sheer numbers, spores in the air, toxins.
So so you're discounting his force fields, you're discounting his umbrokinesis, you're discounting his telepathy, you're discounting his latent telekinesis, you're discounting
any non-magnetic powers. I'm absolutely discounting things like the force fields.
So
yeah, those keep him going for a while, but I feel like this is a fight that she would also keep going and eventually break him down.
So you're discounting all of his extra powers and going with the basest level he had at his beginning, but you're giving her full nowist powers.
No, I'm saying I think those powers are always horseshit. And especially the telepathy and the telekinesis.
He had telepathy before he had almost anything else.
Yeah, but
telepathy came first. He had telepathy to fight Xavier in like his first appearance.
I know, but that's bullshit, and it doesn't get used unless somebody wants to throw it out there. It's not the Master of Magnetism's power set. His power is magnetism.
But so she's a good guy right now.
She's a good guy because we have not gotten to the point where, I mean, she's an eco-terrorist, like. And we recognize that those people are actually probably doing better for all of us.
And Magneto's a nicer cyst.
Magneto, I mean, like they're both my type of person. Like they are, you know, he's a queer terrorist. She's an eco-terrorist.
Oh, she's Jewish too. I didn't know.
How dare you? Wait, Pamela Isley? No, Isley.
Isley
No.
Hard.
No,
Max Isley Hard.
Isn't there a musician?
The Isley Brothers.
Isley Brothers, thank you. Are they Jewish? Look this one up real quick. No, the Isley Brothers are not Jewish. Thank you. Okay, great. Oh, of course they're not Jewish. No, that's not true.
What is this broadcast?
Okay. I still think it's Poison Ivy. KEVO, you're gonna have to break it unless Nico will.
No, I stated my case. KEVO, you've watched a ton of X-Men cartoons and a ton of X-Men movies. And while you've seen Batman and Robin in your life, I know you've got a really good basis on the upper limits of Harley, thanks to Ivy, thanks to the Harley Quinn animated show. So I do feel you are equipped to give a fair vote.
Yeah, you can break this.
But I don't want to.
Vote with your brain, not your marriage. I'm not worried.
If I'm going to break this tie in anyone's favor is the thing, I want to break it in favor of the woman. I understand that they have both been overpowered to an extreme that is sometimes ridiculous, but then I do want to give this the same way that the same way I've been voting, and I gave it to Emma because I want to see her better represented, and Doop I want to see him better represented. I feel like even with how over the top powerful Ivy has become, there are frequently times where she is way too easily overpowered, and I want to see her in a situation where she's given the upper hand against someone that you wouldn't expect, because I suspect she's mostly just been ultimately overpowered because she's a woman, and I want to see the opposite of that.
Convinced. Let's give it to her. To Chapo LaFleur. Poison Ivy wins. I love that. Okay, this next one is really kind of interesting. So this next one is Thor versus Flash. And it's Wally West as Flash. And so this is about as even as it gets.
Odin Force versus Speed Force.
It's tough because they're both life incarnate. Where I'm going to give it to Thor over Wally. Specifically Thor over Wally. Is they're both the impetuous child, but Thor is further in his timeline. Thor starts where Wally's at now. So like I'm going to give it to Thor because we're constantly shown Wally's a mess. Also, can I just say something dark? MCU Thor doesn't have kids the same way Wally's got kids. You fight differently when your kids aren't involved. You just want to save the universe. But Wally might want to save his kids. And I'm like Loki. Loki might abduct Wally's kids. Thor would never do anything like that, but Loki might.
Well, and it's not Asgard versus the speedsters, but
Right.
I do sort of like, it is one of those things where I just sort of see like Wally's running around and all of a sudden the hammer is just in his chest. So that's one thing that's happening in my mind. That's one place that we're at.
Lightning is but the speed force.
I will say I would have 3 weeks ago, I would have said Thor and I wouldn't even be talking anymore. But we did read this run.
So good.
They're going kind of hard against Eclipso and they're not losing.
And you know how I feel about Eclipso.
I do. So I'm asking you, like, given what, like, he's vibrating into into making clones. And then I don't know, man. I sort of, right now, I will also say Wally is more inquisitive about the Speed Force and what it can do than Thor is at all about what the Odin Force is and what it can do.
Okay, I think there's specific runs where it's the other way, and right now we're at a point where, like, technically his name is like Sufjan Stevens, and he's running around hitting things.
Yeah, I know there's something going on with this run, but even still, like, I don't know. This is not. I'm not as passionate. I was very passionate that I felt like Ivy absolutely would not only like win, but like genuinely beat Magneto. I'm not as. I do feel like these two are very evenly matched. I just feel like maybe it's because it's fresher in my mind, but what I saw in this run of Flash is making me feel like Flash, like even Wally would win.
You think Wally over Thor?
Yeah, I really, right now, I really do. They seemed like they were really inventive. Like they, because again, Thor wields the Odin Force like a hammer, but they're making like multiple kinds of weapons out of the Speed Force right now and doing multiple different kinds of things with it. And I just don't see Thor using that same type of imagination in this fight. And so I just don't know. For me, I don't know how he would win.
I would recommend specific runs, but then it's like, then I think what I'm doing is I'm saying the same way. I'm doing the same thing you are then. And like I'm saying, look at the JMS run of Thor. Look at the Gillen run of Thor. It gives you what you're looking for there. But like then you can just as easily say, look at the Spurrier run of Flash. Look at the Wade run of Flash. So like we're in we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. KEVO,
a hammer in a fast place.
Yeah, you gotta bail us out here. Papa was a Rolling Stone. What do we do?
So this is really my first time hearing or understanding the extent of Flash's powers in that regard. And I think for me, a huge element of why I'm going to give it to Thor is I believe what it comes down to for me then is psychology and privilege. I think Thor, born a god, raised a god, lived as a god, I am a god, that is who I am, is
That's my
very
favorite
different
Megan Thee
from
Stallions.
I'm a human being who came in contact with godhood. I am still inherently, at the start of my journey, a person. And I think there is a certain amount of hubris, perhaps, that Thor would possess that is a kind of never give up. And, that's why I flash to what's the difference between someone who achieves an astronomical level of fame versus someone who is born into that privilege and sort of given it. I was talking about the other day with Dakota Johnson. And you know what? If it hadn't been 50 Shades of Grey that she went on Ellen to say something snarky, she would have gotten another project eventually. Because I just think that's who she is. It had nothing to do with the project and it had everything to do with Dakota Johnson was raped by Don Johnson and Melanie Griffith. And that's how she talks to someone like Ellen. I think Thor would have a very different attitude than Wally. And I think that's part of it.
I agree. I feel like the thing that comes out ahead is that Wally's like, whatever it takes. But like Thor went to Odin Force school. So like we see Thor do things like create palaces in the sky with the Odin Force out of a thought. And so like I'm going to give it to him.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
All right. Is it doing that?
Okay. The winners.
Yeah, we got to do the whole.
It's going to do the thing. So if you want to,
well, we already did these
if
two.
you want to see who the winners were. No, I'm just saying if you want to say the winners first, and then
terrific.
We can
Thank
do
you
the
so
verses.
much. Nico won. Nico versus Star Sapphire. Mr. Terrific won. Mr. Terrific versus Elektra Daredevil. Akahiro won. Akahiro versus Renee Montoya the Question. Doop barely but did win between Doop and John Constantine. Hulkling beat out the Red Hood, despite the Red Hood's resistance to death. Emma Frost beat Harley Quinn. Poison Ivy beat Magneto. And Thor beat Flash. This is a good set of lineups. All right. I think all it would really take for Nico to beat Mr. Terrific is one, and there is no technology, spell, and then her next move is, and there are no backups. And then her next move is, I mean, like, think about who her crew is. Think about how disabling the leapfrog takes them offline. One of the things is I think that Nico is very, I'm going to take from you what you've got. I think that one of the mistakes is people don't write Nico closer to Monet. And the same way you were saying that people maybe don't understand Elektra's hubris can also be a weapon against her, so can Mr. Terrific's. And I think that when you've got a guy who's like, I got every piece of technology figured out, little girl, and she has ancient magic that all she has to do the same spell is change words slightly. I think people underestimate her because she's a young woman. But if she were Doctor Strange, we would all go, oh yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Not you in particular, but like writers. And so I think that is what holds back our conversation. Writers being afraid to use her properly.
On the one hand, I hear you. On the other, so there can only be one word. And so I don't think there's a good word that's going to get you.
No, it can be more than one word. She can only use each spell once, but like she says phrases all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And I honestly think we're all a little outdated. I think there's been a few times that it's been like the staff of one is because she's the one person who can use it. Like I think like they've changed the rules here and there, but I tend not to read books by people of questionable decisions.
All right, I'll give it to you. That's Nico.
And I feel like we too saw a new side of Nico in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, where I think
so true.
Nico perhaps is more willing to embrace technology than I would feel Mr. Terrific might be willing to account for magic.
And I just want to say, I know I'm not the world's biggest Mr. Terrific reader. I'm a big fan in that I think the character is fantastic. And I'm here for his journey forward. So I'm not like, oh, he can't beat my Marvel fave. But, you know. I'm giving that one to Nico. And I'm really glad that the whole vote went to Nico. This next one is really fascinating because it's Akihiro as Helverine versus Doop. And I think what's tough here is that Akihiro is going to think, you know, I'm a Wolverine and I can summon every bad thing you've ever done to haunt you. And I think Doop is just going to be like, I'm best friends with your dad and I eat the things you think I'm afraid of. I actually feel like Flash versus Doop, I'd give it to Flash. But like, I can't imagine Akihiro beating Doop even once.
Yeah, I sort of feel the same way. Yeah.
And I think something that even backs up what you're saying is it sometimes feels even easier to gauge these things when it's in-house. And so the fact that they're both Marvel, it's like, yeah, we could even never interact with that situation.
So for this next one, which is Emma Frost versus Hulkling, this one's tough because if we're applying morality, she would choose to lose. She would not choose to defeat a student. She would...
Yep.
I believe she would fake her own, now go get him. And I don't think Emma Frost, real person, would take the fight far enough to completion. I believe she would choose not to. That said, actual full force Emma Frost not holding back like he's a real opponent would, in my opinion, put Hulkling in the fucking ground so hard. I mean, you've got to have the actual Phoenix Force for me to think Emma Frost is going to lose.
You have to create fake scenarios for even thinking about these sometimes, like mind-controlled Hulkling who she has to stop for his own good. Like, you have to create a circumstance where she would need to fight him full force, because everything you're saying is so true. And so then where would she have to do that? Because she would, if she had to. You're correct.
Yeah, honestly, he's Emperor Doric now. I really don't even think she would be that, like, I gotta take care of you, student. Maybe in the hindsight years. Yeah, he's not only are you an adult, you're fully a space emperor. I'm not going to be that nice to you.
Yeah, that's true.
And also,
your wife is god of magic.
There's a lot of fights, even with students, where Emma would win because it's for your own good to understand the level that you're at. You know, like you have to understand. I fully agree with you that she would, for a student, for somebody that she was trying to teach, she would not beat them down for glory or, you know, to be petty or even to win a contest. But when pitted with a student to show them how the real world works, I think most contests, even with a student, Emma would happily choose to win, because in the world that these students are going to be in, you know, villains are not going to back away, and she knows how powerful she is. And if you can't beat her, what good has she done teaching you? Okay. So anyway, but that is almost neither here nor there, because these being in somewhat of a vacuum, I think she's taken it.
Oh yeah. Just to recap, that means that Nico has taken down, not this Nico, the Nico that I definitely didn't decide to copy my name from at 18 years old. No big deal. Nico takes down Mr. Terrific. Doop takes down Akihiro. Emma Frost takes down Hulkling. Okay, so for Poison Ivy versus Thor,
I swear to God.
I think she's gonna say the green runs through every ounce of Asgard. And he's going to say, right, but as we have seen witness to multiple times, death ends the green's control. That goes to the black. The black runs through the Odin force as well. Even in death, you are part of the Odin force. But in death, you are not a part of the green. She can wither and kill plants all she wants. They still belong to Asgard and Yggdrasil. And you cannot pervert the truth of the Tree of Life. I think Thor outclasses her. I think she could maybe take down Jane. I think Jane could take down every other the green in DC except for the Swamp Thing. I don't know. I think this one's got to go to Thor because he understands a sense of balance. She doesn't. She fights from passion. He still fights from passion, but he is at all times the three Thors for me because of Aaron's run. And she just hasn't had a three Ivies moment yet.
I mean, I think it's also reasonable to say that she is, you know, I actually, now that you said it, I love the idea of her like communing with Yggdrasil and expanding her knowledge of ecosystems. But she's an Earth-based.
Yeah,
these are Earth-based powers, and like I said, I'd love to see her ascend and like learn about cosmic, you know, astrobiology.
beautiful.
I think that's a really cool run, but we haven't really seen that. And I think mythic plants, I would, like I said, love to see it, but she's just not there. I do think it goes to Thor.
So that makes tonight's winning lottery numbers. Ooh, I feel like Yolanda Vega. That makes tonight's winning lottery numbers Nico, Doop, Emma, and Thor. Okay. Nico versus Doop. Sorry, Nico, you're out. Doop.
Yeah, I think so too.
Pretty straightforward. I feel like she would look at him and be like, I've got this. Oh, no, I don't. There's no TikTok video that gives me the instruction.
I just also think like a Lydia Dietz type against a silly goofball.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Lydia Dietz versus Beetlejuice. It definitely goes to Beetlejuice.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Emma Frost versus Thor. I'm so sorry, Emma.
No,
there
Kevin
is-
gets to break this tie. Emma absolutely wins.
There is truly nothing Emma Frost can possibly do against Mjolnir. There is nothing. There is nothing. I'm willing to bet I can find an example in canon of Mjolnir creating psychic static before I can find an example of Emma Frost without a super uber upcharge able to take down a full Marvel god.
Would Magneto be able to do anything against Mjolnir because it's metal?
No, it's not. It's Uru.
Okay.
It's not Ferris. So,
I know, but he does so many non-ferrous metals that I don't think that's a thing anymore. I never
if
considered
we're
that a
going with TK's definition that he only has ferrous metal magic. I look like the Asbury Smile with no facial hair.
Here's the thing. The way you guys described earlier, there's like a 1 in 10 or sometimes 3 in 10. I'm not saying it's impossible for Emma to ever win, but if we're talking significant odds, yeah, I also would probably vote God.
All right, I'm outvoted.
TK quits the show.
TK quits the show.
But now the hardest one of all.
No, this has been answered on. This has been canonically answered, unfortunately.
Oh, has it?
Yes. The Avengers have fought Ecstatics. And it was Thor and Wanda versus Doop. Here's what we learned happens. If Doop swallows Mjolnir, he vomits thousands of Mjolnirs. Here's why I'm going to give it to Thor anyway. Reasonably speaking, Doop's limitations are reality. Yggdrasil is slightly outside of reality in a different way. Because, like, if we go by Mama Doop canon and we pull in all new Doop 1 through 5, when Battle of the Atom finished, Marvel said that sucked and immediately published 5 issues making fun of it. It was great. And in it, Doop gets Mama Doop and there's all this stuff. I think if Doop legitimately... Oh, that's amazing. That's TK just sent me a photo of Magneto lifting Mjolnir. Love it. If Doop can beat Thor, then we need to accept that Deadpool can beat Thor. And I believe the limit of Doop is the limit of magic reality, and Thor is the fabric of reality. And so I think they would both die, but Thor would come back, Doop wouldn't.
I'll give it to Thor.
I would also allow if you gave it to the Doop Force.
No, I mean, I think my thing is I thought Emma should have won, and I think Emma would have beaten Doop. So I can't really say that. I kind of have to give it to Thor.
That's fascinating. I think Doop would lay Emma out.
No, she would trick him.
I think Doop would lay Emma out like a pie on a windowsill, but I definitely hear you.
I think Emma has neuroplasticity for Doop's silly in a way that you are not ready for. She has neuro Pilates classes that make her ready for what Doop has to bring.
I love that you lean on Doop's silly, because I think I lean a little bit more on Doop's dolly painting.
Yeah, well, and when I say silly, that is essentially what I'm referring. Like she's like I said, I think she has the neuroplasticity, and I think she has a few like what?
The neuroplasticity of our city, All
right, we got a whole other side to do. Let's go.
From something?
Yeah, it's
Toxicity by System of a Down.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Ileana versus Sinsen. This is so great because this is 2 kids.
Yeah.
It goes to Ileana hands down.
Yes.
But it's who Sinsen should be modeling himself after.
Yeah, they should have this fight
so
that he learns what he aspires to be when he's in high school.
Yeah, he'll never learn how to be a mean cunty queer if he doesn't stare down a mean cunty queer in the tits. And his dad ain't rocking big tits
about
right now.
a pair of panties that is somehow all belt. That'll be good for him as well. But yeah, this obviously has to go to Ileana.
Oh, and like defiantly so.
Yeah.
So from Sinsen versus Ileana going handily to Ileana, this next one is not going to make anyone happy. Zatanna versus Novar. I think by power it has to go to Novar. I think by feat and fan favor it has to go to Zatanna. But I think Novar could just go into a coma and be fine.
I mean, here's the other thing. Zatanna is a character that I've read a lot. I shouldn't say a lot, but more than most DC characters over the last 20 years. every book Zatanna goes into, she starts off being like, I'm pathetic. I cannot do this. I have no powers. I'm shit at my job. I'm unhappy.
My asshole just fell out. Somebody please help me.
Yeah. And then by the end of it, somebody's like, no, you actually can control the entire universe if you just speak words backwards. And she goes, oh, I should probably do that. But in the time that it takes for her to get there, Novar will have punched her head off
with a reality
times.
punch that he learned how to do from all of the immortal weapons in the interim.
Yeah, I mean, like, I do think there are so many scenarios that you could get to where Zatanna would win, but it would take decades of character work from where they start writing her in every book for me to believe that if they got into a ring and somebody said fight, he wouldn't just immediately kill her while she's sitting there going, I shouldn't even be here. So, yeah, Novar.
Yeah, it's tough because basically it's what if a person from Battlestar Galactica was fighting someone from Dawson's Creek.
Yeah.
And it's just...
Or that season of Riverdale where they have magic.
The way you describe her and the way that she seems, because she was just like that in whatever last episode of Justice League that we saw her in. She actually kind of sounds like a That Girl type, like a 1970s Gidget, spunky girl trying to make it in the big city. And it just really makes me wish Powerless had worked out on NBC, because that show was so funny, and I would have loved to see actual DC heroes appear, and I think her appearing in that capacity as someone who ultimately could genuinely come into that power, but would start as like a temp at the office. That would have been so great. But yeah, God bless her.
Okay, so just to refresh real quick, Magic beat Sin Sin and Novar beat Zatanna. I think TK is going to outright disagree with me. It's fine. Zur-En-Arrh is all of the most evil, spiritual parts of Batman. Kushala is a person who is bound by ethics. Zur-En-Arrh is not. Zur-En-Arrh is pure evil. Zur-En-Arrh is every bad Batman joke ever. And he looks fabulous doing it. I think Zur-En-Arrh would defeat Kushala because I think she would be like, the magics you're summoning, you are sick, you are cruel, you are evil, and he would be like, I'm winning. Like, I give this one to Zur-En-Arrh over Kushala, even though Kushala is one of the most fabulous, fantastic, most unforgettable, breathtaking characters Marvel has produced in 25 years.
I don't disagree with you. This is one where I think it's like maybe 4 out of 6 times Kushala would win.
Yes.
But I
yes.
I don't disagree that, you know, there's a lot of people that I would accept Bruce Wayne wins against because that's just sort of his superpower. And then to have a personality that is specifically filters out some of the things that make Bruce lose from time to time. Yeah, anyway, I don't have a problem with this one. I'll give it to Zur-En-Arrh.
KEVO, any vote on all the most evil things about Batman versus Kushala, who you've read?
Not only will I take your word for it, it's such a cute costume, so I'm down.
Oh my god, I get gayer looking at it. Like, oh my god, I just like many basic.
This one made me laugh.
Like many basic wannabe muscle gays, I dream of doing a ghost face jockstrap costume. I want to find a way to do that little for Zur-En-Arrh. Like, I just think that's the best costume. Okay, Cassandra Nova versus Damian Wayne. I personally think she would kill herself before hurting him because she sees in him a world destroyer like she could never hope to be. And she would, before beating him, choose to implant the embryo of her brain in his brain and create, Damien Nova. If we're talking like actual fight, I guess she would win instantly. She would just kill him. Like, instantly. If she gave him even a fighting chance, I'm thinking like magician's level of keeping him alive for 500 years for a weird fight. But as much as I think Damian Wayne represents everything right that DC has produced in my lifetime, I think Cassandra Nova represents everything right Marvel's produced in my lifetime as well, and I think she would unfortunately defeat, in my mind, the best Robin after Dick.
I do really like your idea that she would keep him alive and like train him or use him in some capacity, but I don't think that counts as losing the fight. I do think no matter what, she wins.
Yeah, KEVO, I know that you have limited experience with Cassandra Nova. And it's so funny because Cassandra Nova is the mislead bad guy of Grant Morrison's New X-Men. The same way Damian Wayne is the mislead bad guy of Grant Morrison's Batman and Son.
Okay.
So it's just interesting that you're looking at two characters that contextually, but you might not have even realized that they were both created by, Grant Morrison, my personal, spirit figure.
Nice. But yeah, I think as much as Damien would like to think he would endure, I'm not sure that's the case, young man.
No. But speaking of slamming badass pussy, I love Spider-Girl versus Dreamer. I don't know that you can represent strong women that don't conform to the standard definition of what a female in superhero comics needs to be better than these two. We all thought that Spider-Girl was edgy and kind of gay because she played basketball, and then she gets like Bane-roided levels of gigantic boyfriend in Black Tarantula, and we're into it. And now we have Dreamer, and like, I believe there are not enough trans characters in comics, period. But what a relief it is that if we have even approaching enough, one of them is Dreamer, who is a modern legend in storytelling, a character that is filling a need demanded by fandom. I love her. I'm here for her. That said, Mayday would kick her to pieces.
I was really hoping we were going to be on the same side for this one.
No, and can I tell you why I'm going to give it to Mayday?
Yeah.
Daydreamer constantly sees the end of the universe and figures out a way around it. Mayday just swings on through it. Between the two of them, one of them is Gloria Estefan. Bus accident, boat accident, and just this year has 2 Spanish language number ones. By the way, congratulations, Gloria. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
2 number ones in 2025 on the Spanish charts. Mama, that is something insane. Who are you, Bad Bunny? Because I know she's watching. I take very close attention to Gloria Estefan's career. So I think it's got to go to Mayday. Mayday has the resilience that Dreamer has not yet earned, simply because even though she is in every major event since her creation, she's just not Mayday resilient yet.
I just do not see how that is true at all. She absolutely has that kind of resilience, especially after Absolute Power. She also has just a much stronger power suite. including, yeah, as you mentioned, being able to foretell the future. So having foreknowledge of a lot of stuff that Mayday does not.
Dreams make you really effective in a fight. Oh no, Dream Punch me harder.
Well, she
What else
does
does she-
wield dream energy into force blasts and force shields as well. So don't make that face at me. That is 100% the case. You know, she does do dream travel. She's precog. I don't know, man. And also, like, she's been through it this year with Amanda Waller, and I just think Mayday. I love Mayday because of that resilience, yes. And my frustration with Mayday is that she has not. She's still a suburban girl who lives at home, who thinks it's all going to be okay. And she is just a character that, like, because only Tom DeFalco really has written her and a little bit of Dan Slott, she's just never had that chance to be like, and that was when my world got torn asunder and I realized the grit that it takes to be a hero. But I do feel like Dreamer has been there a bunch. Also, Dreamer is a trans woman with gay friends who are very mad at her right now, and I think they need to get over that. Mayday has no gay friends. Mayday is a woman in desperate need of gay friends who has none.
Mayday is very good friends with Spider Faggot or whatever. What's the Spider-Man that won Project Runway's name again?
The Spider-Man that won Project Runway?
His name is Spider Weaver or Web Weaver or Spider
Webulon Weaverberg, yeah.
Oh, Webulon Weaverberg. He's my favorite character from DuckTales.
Yeah.
Kevin, gotta break the tie. Is it Dreamer or Spider Girl man who shares my bed?
Listen,
You're on my health insurance.
I don't really know Dreamer that well. Shields and stuff versus my dad's Peter Parker. Yeah. I think I am also going to give this to Mayday.
Don't get me wrong,
if
I'm
you
happy
want,
for
we
it to
can-
Mayday. I love her so much.
We can file it under more of that category of I want to see more from Mayday. Dreamer was on TV.
Sure.
All right, so while TK is storming off, guys, you can't see this, but he just quit the show.
Sure
He
did.
was
Gave us
dressed
double
like Cookie
finger.
in the first season of Empire. He just pulled the
Just the fur
tablecloth.
coat.
It's wild.
Mhm.
So that's Magic beat Sin Sin, Novar beat Zatanna, Zurin R Batman beat Kushala, Cassandra Nova beat Damian Wayne, and that means that Mayday beat Dreamer, bringing us to Goblin Queen Maddie Pryor versus Terry McGinnis, the cartoon character that ensured I was gay, Batman Beyond. What a bummer. Terry stands exactly 0 of a chance, and Madeline Pryor would eat his shit for breakfast. I feel so bad, but this one is tragic. The actual sad story here is how bad Madeline feels about trashing Terry like a hotel room on a tour stop. It is a bummer for my boy.
I tend to agree, but I thought I was gonna somehow be alone in this one. So that makes me happy.
No, she like goes to end the universe, and he like goes to stop people from robbing people in the afternoon. Like he's an after school special, and she's Red Shoe Diaries,
Yeah.
but on X-Tube.
Yeah.
It is not the same thing. Kirby, I know you know all about Batman Beyond, and you know very little about Maddie Pryor, but believe me when I tell you, this is like Dark Julia Magicians of the Crown versus, 90210 Batman.
There's favor and there's just blatant power set. And Nico didn't raise no fool. I get it. I hope you get a live action movie someday, Terry, but you are not winning this fight.
Speaking of not winning this fight, I feel weird because I think on a scale of 1 to 10, the Sorrow Lantern barely rates my attention. I hate this character. I hate this story. This is such a bummer. This is like so bad. And yet, no matter how much Frank shoots him, he'll just be sad about it. And like, I feel like people will be like, no, Frank's known such sorrow. No, Frank has a breaking point and we see him hit it all the time. I tend to think that even like Mole Man levels of supernatural abilities give Frank a run for his money. And yeah, Punisher kills the Marvel Universe, and a lot of people feel really strong when they do a lot of testosterone. But like, I think the Sorrow Lanterns are just a little on his own. Nathan Broom is just a little bit more than Frank Castle on his own. And then if it's Frank's got a guy in a van and the Sorrow Lantern has what's his name that's controlling the emotional spectrum core. And if he's got the fucking hand and Sorrow Lantern's got like all sadness ever. Come on. This is the Golden Girls versus nurses.
I don't know how many people in our audience are going to be able to get that one, but
ooh, Nurses finally got referenced on Pod Meets World when someone reminded Ryder Strong that he was on it and that he's technically what's his name? That he's technically Bill Daniels' grandson, because Bill Daniels played the Doctor's father and he played the Doctor's son in separate episodes. And I was like, we knew it first.
I like the idea of this one going to the Sorrow Lantern because I fucking hate Frank, but also I like it because the one thing I just feel like Frank wouldn't be prepared for this. He just would not be prepared for an emo Green Lantern that is just like coming around and wailing and crying, just like liquid gray tears. I don't know. I like it. I'm happy to give this one to the Gray Lantern.
Gotta. KEVO, you should just agree with us because anytime Punisher loses, we all win.
And, you know, I only want to add, I feel like this would be, there have been a few situations that we've come up with in this where the one person would think they got it. Yeah, you're not so tough. No, Frank. No, you are not going to win.
Yeah, if Hallows Eve fought Nightwing and she took one look at him, she would say, hold on, let me put on my I'm pregnant mask and go to full term instantly. I love Hallows Eve. She is quite literally shown to be a foolish hero. She is like literally ruled by her emotions and her reactions. She is driven by her passions and not her better judgment. She will never outthink Dick Grayson. I didn't put Batman in this list because you can't have Batman and Dick Grayson. Nope, no way. I mean, Dick Grayson versus Emma Frost would actually be really tough for me. Like, no, Dick Grayson is flawless.
Both of these covers have masks.
Yeah, I love that. So Dick Grayson versus Hallows Eve. I gotta give it to Dick Grayson. I can't see it any other way.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I mean, like, she is a sometimes kind of drug addict, criminal, like petty criminal, who is weirdly obsessed with her boyfriend, who is very self-obsessed and doesn't care nearly enough about her.
Weird. We're so positive on her, but when it's Courtney Love,
who
you know
also
why.
I just discovered that she last year did a cover of Song to the Siren that is like passable. It's not bad. It's weird. Yeah, it's weird. Last year she did it. It's last year. She sounds like she does last year doing a cover of Song of the Siren. Anyway, just let him think about, if you want to Google that, ladies and gentlemen. She doesn't quite know how to use the mask. She never knows it's in the bag. I love her so much, but there's just no way she would win this. In kind of a fun way. It'd be funny.
Yeah, I mean, and like I'm making like meh face, but like yeah, it's sort of like a step up from what if the girls from Haunted Mask got into the superhero game, and it's sort of like, I talk a lot about loving Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics, Sonic comics. I grew up on stuff like the Max and the Mask, and a lot of those sort of like indie comics. And I feel like there's a lot of ways in which Hallows' Eve is such a beautiful tribute to them. But by today's modern superhero standards, so there's a humility instead of an insanity. And it leads her to unfortunately be not as effective at Dial H for Hero kind of stuff. So, all right, yeah. KEVO, you giving it to Dick Grayson? Because KEVO, I think we can agree it should go to Dick.
Yup. Always Dick. Always Dick with that butt.
Okay. Illyana versus Novar is borderline impossible to answer. I think I have to give it... Okay, what are we defining as winning? Because she would never be able to defeat him, and she would trap him in limbo. And be like, it's been 600 years. Why aren't you destroyed? And he would be like, I could use a shave. Probably piss. But no, I'm fine. So, like, I think she could best him, but I don't think she could beat him. I think he could beat her, but it's a long game. This is tough because you're talking about two unexpected, most powerful characters in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, this is a really tough one. I feel like, for one thing, it's we're not talking fight to the death,
Right?
So I do think that trapping him in limbo and just taking him off the board counts. And I think there's a level to which Illyana can be a little more creative and no nonsense in her willingness to do what it takes to win. So that's why I kind of do want to give it to Illyana, but I do think it is, if we're just talking, trading blows, swords clashing, standard fight stuff, it more closely would go to Novar.
I can give it to Illyana for that reason. KEVO,
there's also like there's a Dark Child. At a certain point, she's just going to be like, well, I'm just going to let the Dark Child out.
Yeah, I feel comfortable giving it to Magic. KEVO, how about you?
Yeah, I get that. I'm vibing.
Zuranar versus Cassandra Nova. Nope, sorry. She can't beat a man who the inside of his head is just the ugliness that she thinks she can inflict. Like, I think she would go to inflict horrors on him, and he would be like, all right, I put it in a box in my head. What do you want? Like, she would go to Black Bug Room him, and the bugs would be like, I'm so sorry, I'm so scared, sir. Like, that is the level to which... Because, I mean, he is kind of the Cassandra Nova of that run. He is Cassandra Nova. In terms of, he is the boogeyman. He is the darkness that is the other side of Batman's brain. And she's all power and bravado. He is all method and precision. I feel like she would start flailing way before he did.
She still has a bigger power. So the other thing is, like, he is a product of mental manipulation, and Bruce Wayne hacking his brain software to have a backup personality. and she is the person who gave Emma Frost a secondary mutation and a backup personality in order to infiltrate the X-Men at a later date. I don't know. I hear what you're saying, and you have read more of.
I only want
everything
to
that
say
it would.
that she did not give Emma the diamond form. Emma's secondary mutation was a latent reaction to the extreme pressure she was placed under, and she developed what is known as child's guilt, where she produced a set of memories that matched how badly she felt about losing her students. Cassandra Nova did not give her a secondary mutation. In order to deal with the survivor's guilt of surviving, she manifested memories in which Cassandra Nova told her she could survive if she chose to become evil, and her mind created the context that allowed Cassandra Nova to leave the creche. So it's actually a storyline they did on like several episodes of Law and Order without the telepathy. And that's actually why I think Emma Frost could have gone toe-to-toe with Thor. So I only want to be clear that a lot of what people think was Cassandra Nova is actually Emma Frost. Just survivor's guilt.
I'm looking at the panel where she tells Emma she's going to give her a secondary mutation.
Right, that's never happened. That's the survivor's guilt. She never actually chose to become evil, just like that's not really Sebastian.
Does that come up later in the run?
Yeah, that's the whole thing where she created perfection. All of them are projections of her mind.
Okay, give it to Batman.
Right? I'm just saying. Hey, Torn! Right? Because Emma Frost is... So Joss Whedon one time, between beating up women's emotions and looking at their feet, said that Torn is completely about Jean Grey. And that's the whole point of Gifted through Unbreakable Jean Grey. And one of the things he said was that Emma is coping with not being Jean with everything she does. So she's an unreliable narrator. So I'm really excited to get back to the list because now we've got some other amazing teams. Like Merp. We have Spider-Girl versus Madeline Pryor. It's kind of got to go to Maddie Pryor.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, I know that Maddie's in love with a Spider-Man, but...
Yeah.
All right. I think the Sorrow Lantern would lose to Dick Grayson.
Yes.
I feel like he could move through his sorrow.
Yeah, he's going to be prepared for this mentally. Frank is also unpowered, but just is not at all prepared for this. Dick is prepared for this. It's not just because it's in his universe. It's because Frank sucks and isn't really just like shoots first and asks questions later. That's his whole thing.
Yep.
And Dick asks, maybe even to a fault, too many questions beforehand and then shoots. But at least he's prepared for this fucking guy.
Completely. All right. Now that brings us... Oh, I'm sorry, KEVO, what?
I trust you.
That brings us to Magic versus Zur-En-Arr. I kind of think Zur-En-Arr wins. She's a child, and I feel like she is a Robin, and I feel like Zur-En-Arr knows how to break a Robin better than anybody.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like she's had a way more fucked up childhood. She spent all of her time in limbo. Again, she's got powers. I feel like if nothing else, she'd have to give him a run for his money. But if you think he wins, I don't know enough about him to argue.
You know, I actually can really see them fighting and her like chopping him to pieces, screaming, "At least your parents took you to the movies."
Mm.
All right, I could see it going to Magic. KEVO, where are you at?
Oh, I love that it's yellow versus purple. That's something that's very interesting. I don't know Purple Batman as well as you guys, so I'm going to go ahead and trust you.
So it goes to Ileana, and that brings us to Maddie versus Dick Grayson. I'm going to give Maddie versus Dick Grayson to Dick Grayson.
Yeah, I mean, this is another one. I think it would be a really uphill battle, but I just think there's not a lot that she brings to the table that he's not in some way prepared for. And there is a resilience that she is not prepared for.
Oh, I really agree with that.
And there's a sort of lack of nonsense from being Batman's son that she's just used to Summers family drama. And I don't know that she's prepared for the Wayne family seriousness.
KEVO, your thoughts?
Again, love the colors. Love it red and blue. Yeah. We're so in the weeds at this point. I'm mostly following along with what you guys say.
I can't blame you. So yeah, it's kind of got to go to Nightwing. All right, now that brings us to Ileana versus Nightwing. I'm gonna give this one a Nightwing. That might seem ridiculous, but Batman versus Constantine, I'm giving it to Batman. Nightwing versus Ileana, I'm giving it to Nightwing, I guess.
This is another one I feel like would be really close. I can see a lot of times how it would be Ileana, but I can definitely see how Dick just edges her out a little bit.
Definitely. Lots of dick edging. KEVO, what are you thinking?
I don't know. I feel like there has to be a line when it comes to the Dick Grayson. And I think of Elektra and how she was DQ'd where she was. I don't have as much a vote, so I can't speak to it. But I would probably say Ileana.
Interesting. And TK, what'd you say?
I think it's Dick.
Okay, so it does sound like we are going with Dick.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're at. All right, so
and
that puts us... Oh.
Also because that means this is the final, and I don't know about that.
Dick Grayson is definitely worthy. First and foremost.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's got to go to Thor. We saw Dick Grayson as a child grow into a man. We've seen Thor do the same. They both get reset. We're just in a Thor reset. I got to give this one to Thor. Barely, but I do.
I think it's Thor.
KEVO, how about you?
I get it. It's one of the things that makes having a god on a game like this kind of tough. But I get it. That's even part of why I kind of wanted Ileana. I was like, I'd love to see the sword versus the hammer. But I liked that it ended up being Marvel versus DC in the end.
Yeah, and that's even part of what's exciting. We did this thinking like this is a great way to kind of understand a little bit better what we're looking for from these mashups. Just kind of like, wow, we can see this worked, this didn't. Poison Ivy versus Magneto totally worked. Emma Frost versed anyone worked. But we noted that there were characters that sort of lost by default really quickly, even though we loved them, like Kushala up against Zurinar. It's almost hard to face Zurinar and succeed. So it's really specifically about how you use the characters, what iteration of the character you use. You know, TK, you referenced a few times that based on the image, it was this version or that version. And I really agree. You kind of have to use a visual indicator to be sure of what you're dealing with. And with that in mind, I love having played this and getting down to Thor and Nightwing, two unmistakable winners of the last 30 years at these two companies.
And I think representative of two different ends of a spectrum that both companies have.
Oh yeah.
You know, godhood versus just no powers grit. I like that it came down to two really classic characters, because I do think there's something to be said. I forget who I was talking about when I said this, but there's something to be said for like you know, a character has to build up over time. Some of these characters have been around for a while and have really changed. And you know, like a character like Elizabeth Tyne being Hollow's Eve, in 10 years, Hollow's Eve might have just fucking mastered those powers and, you know, maybe is going for the next Queen of Limbo, because her powers are all from Limbo. And, you know, maybe that she's become a Limbo sorcerer and, you know, has become the Queen of the Mask and has been on a journey. And it's not just the level up of power, it's the sort of integration with the institution that you become a part of. And so I love that it came down to Dick and Thor, two really, really emblematic of their company characters who have a really long history, who have evolved in a bunch of different ways. As you mentioned, I think we're looking at a Thor right now who's just like a guy, but you know, we know he's Thor. So, you know, we're not talking about, is Dick Grayson fighting just a guy? We're talking about, is the character who will once again be Thor fighting the character who has been Robin, who has been Nightwing, who has at times been Batman, who has gone back to being Nightwing, who leads the Titans, who Batman no longer treats like a child that he has to watch over, but as a colleague who he has a little more experience than, but he trusts like a colleague. That's an interesting fight. And I think this could have easily been Daredevil versus Big Barda. You know, just flipping a character with mostly human type powers and an absolute god. And we'd really be talking about a lot of the same stuff. So, you know, I like that this is where we ended up with it.
You know, KEVO, I know that you don't have exactly the same relationship with the comics as you do with the films. And while TK's relationship with both is thoroughly nuanced, because I feel like neither one of us has lived in a DC universe as thoroughly as we've lived in the MCU. I know that your dedication to the Titans show is, you know, exquisite, but like, it's not as it's unfortunate that it's not as nuanced and flourished out as the Marvel universe, and that they kind of kept it out of the DCEU proper. You know, KEVO, I think you have less connection to the DCEU, especially one that involves any version of Nightwing. But even you have a strong relationship with Nightwing as a character identity in the DC universe. You feel as confident on Thor and Nightwing, two guys that we saw as children grow into men in the pages of comics.
You know, I think it's an interesting battle to have ended up at. And I think it's another one of those ones that we have said, there are odds. The first thing you said was Dick would be worthy. And so I think that adds an element to it. But I think a lot of it comes down to it's tough when you include a god in the mix. So, would Dick beat Wally, for example?
That's a great question. I actually think Wally would beat Dick, in part because Wally knows Dick so well that there's another level, that when you're talking about intercompany versus intracompany, it's a totally different conversation. And I love that element. I feel like we got to do another one of these. We had such a great time with this. This was full of character insight. This was full of making me realize who I think is such a powerhouse and who I think kind of just wins by default. I feel like this was a pretty good time, right? TK, where are you at?
I totally agree. I would do so many more of these because I love that we went out of our way to not pick any of the super big guys, but we also went out of our way to not just be like, let's pick this character that's only had one appearance that we know about because we read everything.
No Threnodies here.
Well, like, even Threnody is too obscure and silly, but like, this is not a bunch of appearances.
She has.
She's been around a minute, but there's so many more people that you can do this with, and I would even theme them. Like, it's got to be certain types of characters.
I love that.
Doing only characters that have come out since Amalgam, so we could think about like who would show up in a new DC versus Marvel. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think it's fun to speculate.
Well, things just got so sexy. This is definitely X's for After Dark. That is such a great idea. Thinking about the characters that couldn't be involved in Marvel versus DC, DC versus Marvel and Amalgam. I love that touch. KEVO, you didn't realize that you knew who somebody like The Question was, while you know so comfortably who Batman Beyond is, who isn't an actual member of the DC universe, though he is temporarily getting imported to be part of DC's Exiles. Conversation for later. I loved having you on this. Final thoughts. Where can we find you? What you doing other than talking about Project Runway?
Oh, Project Runway. We've got more Drag Race coming up soon, which is going to be great. This was a lot of fun, especially with bracket fighting. I would love to come up with one where everyone does their own and we discuss the final results. Because that's the thing about that, instead of the SABCD, is that everyone out there who does this, who goes to the link and makes their own, is going to end up with their own results. So definitely let us know what you get in the comments, because we love interacting with you guys, and we love learning, where your heart lies when it comes to all of this content. We've been getting some really awesome responses to our Project Runway content, which has been very cool. Like I said, we're excited to get back to Drag Race. We've got some other cool stuff coming this season. We have at least one more live action Marvel TV show before the end of the year, and God knows what to expect from it. So you will find us doing generally live media responses to all of your favorite things at X's for Show on all of your socials. So check us out, and you can find me at KEVO Rayleigh. That's KEVO REALLY.
I love it. TK, where can everybody find you, and any final thoughts?
You can find me at TK Accidental on all your socials. Final thoughts. No, I don't really have any. I'm just like, now I'm just thinking of all the next batch of people I want to pit against each other.
I love it. Nothing better than making people fight for no reason.
Yes.
Nico Action and ICOACTION, Nico Action Music and ICOACTION MUSAC. You guys can check out the show at X's for Show, X's for Comics, and more. Like, comment, and subscribe. We love you guys. Also, do us 3 favors. Be brave. Stay safe, evolve daily. Who you were yesterday, amazing. Who you are today, incredible. Who you are tomorrow, that's going to win every KO. So until then, we'll see ya.